Welcome back to the deep dive. We spend so much of our daily lives complaining about software updates.
Oh,
You're in the middle of an email, you're trying to navigate somewhere, and boom, your screen freezes, progress bar optimizing. It's a universal annoyance.
It is. It's disruptive, but, you know, we tolerate it because the alternative is so much worse. Security holes, bugs, just outdated features. We kind of begrudgingly accept that for software to survive, it has to evolve.
Exactly. But here's the angle that really grabbed me when I was going through the research for today. We think of this update cycle as something that only applies to, the legitimate world. Microsoft, Apple, Adobe. But the sources we have today, they paint a very different picture. It turns out the bad guys, the state-sponsored hackers, the espionage groups, they have dev cycles too. They have patch notes. They have version upgrades.
And when they push an update, it is not to fix a font size.
Not at all. It's to steal your data more efficiently. So today's mission is to unpack a specific and frankly pretty alarming example of this. We are looking at a notorious threat group known as Mustang Panda. And their latest overhaul of a backdoor tool they call CoolClient. We're basing this on a report from yesterday, January 27, 2026, breaking down some new findings from Kaspersky researchers, all detailed by Bill Tulis over at Bleeping Computer.
And just to set the stakes early on, this isn't about some hacker defacing a website. This is high-level espionage. It's about a group that is actively targeting governments to extract intelligence.
And getting better at it.
Getting better faster and a lot harder to detect.
Okay, so let's start with the who. Mustang Panda, it sounds like a quirky indie band, not a state-sponsored threat group.
The name is definitely deceptive.
Yeah.
Mustang Panda is a Chinese espionage group that's been on the radar of security researchers for years now. If you look at their history, they're really characterized by two things, persistence and volume.
They don't just hit and run.
No, they dig in.
Yeah.
And they cast a very, very wide net.
And this tool we're focusing on, CoolClient, this has been their trusty workhorse for a while, right?
Since about 2022, yeah. Historically, if you were an incident responder and you found Mustang Panda on a network, you'd probably see CoolClient running alongside other well-known malware, like, say, PlugX or Luminous Moth.
So it's just a backdoor, a way to keep the channel open.
Exactly. But the news today, the reason we're doing this deep dive, is that CoolClient just got a massive upgrade. It's not just a doormat anymore.
It's graduated.
It has. The analysis from Kaspersky shows CoolClient has evolved from that passive access tool into what we call an info stealer. It's not just holding the door open, it's actively walking around the room, opening drawers and taking pictures.
So the new update has specific tools to steal browser credentials, session data, clipboard contents.
All of it.
Okay, before we get into the how, because the engineering is really clever, I want to talk about the who. Who is on the receiving end of this? The report lists some specific targets, and honestly, the list surprised me.
It's a fascinating list. You have your expected regional targets. Government entities in Myanmar, Mongolia, Malaysia.
That fits the profile.
It does. It fits that standard profile for a group interested in Southeast Asian geopolitics. But then you see Russia and Pakistan on the list.
That's what stopped me, Russia and Pakistan. I mean, in the messy world of geopolitics, aren't they often considered strategic partners or at least friendly?
And this is a crucial insight into how modern cyber espionage works. There are no friends, there are only requirements. Seeing Russia and Pakistan targeted tells us Mustang Panda has a very broad mandate for just situational awareness. They don't just want to spy on adversaries. They want to know what their partners are doing, saying, and planning.
It's a trust but verify approach.
The very heavy emphasis on the verify.
So they're gathering intelligence from everyone. Okay, let's talk about how they get in, the delivery mechanism. This is where the story takes a really interesting turn in their tradecraft.
It's a significant shift. And to understand why, we have to look at their history. For years, Mustang Panda was famous for a technique called DLL sideloading.
Okay, let's pause and unpack that. DLL sideloading sounds super technical, but the concept is actually pretty straightforward.
It is. Think of it like a Trojan horse. You have legitimate software, like a media player or an antivirus, and it relies on these little helper files called DLLs to function.
Right.
So when you click the icon to run the program basically shouts out, hey, I need my helper file. And it loads whatever file has the right name in its folder.
So the hackers just take a legitimate program that Windows trusts, and they drop their own malicious DLL, renamed to match the real one, right into the same folder.
Exactly. You trick the legitimate program into loading your malicious code. The security system sees VLC Media Player or Bitdefender running and thinks, oh, that's fine, I know that guy.
It's ironic they used an antivirus product to hide a virus.
It is. But you're saying they've moved away from these Western apps.
In this latest campaign, yes, they've pivoted. Instead of abusing Western software, they're now abusing legitimate software from a company called Sangfor. Sangfor is a major Chinese technology company. They do cloud computing, network security, infrastructure. They're a massive vendor, especially in Asia.
It feels like a very deliberate choice. Why the switch?
Well, there are a few layers. First, it's about blending in. If you're targeting government networks in Asia or even Russia, there's a good chance legitimate Sangfor software is already on the network.
So it's camouflage.
Yeah.
It raises fewer eyebrows than, say, a random version of VLC on a server where it doesn't belong.
Exactly. But there's a defensive aspect, too. Security vendors have spent years writing signatures to detect those specific Western binary plus bad DLL combinations.
So by switching to a domestic vendor's software,
they basically reset the clock for defenders. They're using a new vessel that hasn't been flagged nearly as often. It's like they swapped their getaway car because the cops were looking for a specific sedan, so now they're driving a delivery truck that looks like it belongs in the neighborhood.
that is an excellent analogy. It just lowers the anomaly score.
Okay, so the malware rides in on this Sangfor application. It executes. Now we're inside the machine. The report details the execution flow, and I found it strangely bureaucratic.
It really is. It's very structured. The core file, usually a DLL named main.dat, starts up, and the first thing it does is run a checklist.
The checklist?
Yeah. It doesn't just start smashing and grabbing. It's methodical. First, it profiles the victim. Computer name, OS version, RAM, network adapters. It's basically asking, where am I? Is this a sandbox? Is this a real target?
It's casing the joint before it robs it.
Precisely. And then comes the configuration check. It checks its own internal settings to see which toys the operator wants to use. It's asking itself, is the keylogger enabled? Is the clipboard stealer enabled? Is the credential sniffer on?
Why build it that way? Why not just have everything on by default? If you're a spy, don't you want all the data?
Not necessarily. Every feature you turn on creates noise. A keylogger creates specific hooks in the operating system that an antivirus might spot. Packet sniffing eats up CPU, might slow down the network. By making it modular, the operator can tailor the attack. On a high-value target, maybe they only turn on passive monitoring. On a softer target, they turn everything on.
That makes a lot of sense. It lets them dial the aggression up or down. And the report says they ensure persistence. They stay on the system by modifying the registry, creating scheduled tasks.
Standard stuff, but effective. And they keep all their components encrypted on the disk in .dat files. So a sysadmin just browsing the file system doesn't see malware.exe. They just see some random data files.
So the dangerous code only gets decrypted in the computer's memory,
where it's much, much harder to inspect.
Let's get into the cool features then. The reason for the upgrade. We mentioned clipboard monitoring. To the average person, that might sound a bit low-tech, like, oh no, they got the meme I was copying.
But for a government target, the stakes are incredibly high. I mean, think about your own workflow. When you use a password manager, what do?
You copy the password.
You copy the password. If you're transferring crypto, you copy the wallet address. If you're moving sensitive text from a secure document to an email, you copy and paste.
That's true. The clipboard is like a temporary transit station for our most important data.
Exactly. By monitoring it, Mustang Panda just bypasses the need to crack encryption. If you copy a 30-character complex password, they don't need to brute force it. They just grab it. It's the path of least resistance.
And this ties into another feature the report highlighted, active window title tracking. This provides the context, right?
This is crucial. A raw stream of keystrokes or clipboard data is just messy. Imagine reading a log of everything you typed today. It would be a jumble.
A complete mess.
But if the malware tracks the window title, it provides that context. It logs. User is typing in a window titled VPN Secure Login, or user is typing in a window titled Confidential Strategy Doc.
So they know exactly when to pay attention.
Right. If they see the window title change to a banking login or a secure portal, they know the very next thing you type or paste is probably a credential. It turns a flood of data into actionable intelligence.
That is both fascinating and terrifying. It's contextual spying. Now, there was also a mention of packet inspection.
This is a bit deeper down the stack. CoolClient sets up an HTTP proxy. It essentially stands in the middle of your web traffic. It inspects the raw packets, looking for headers where credentials or session cookies might be stored.
And the report teased a rootkit.
Yes. Kaspersky noted the deployment of a previously unseen rootkit. They haven't released the full technical breakdown yet, but a rootkit is the holy grail of evasion. It sits at the kernel level.
The very foundation of the operating system. What does that let them do?
It lets them lie to the operating system. If you open Task Manager to look for the malware, the rootkit intercepts that request and tells Task Manager, nope, nothing to see here. It can hide files, processes, network connections. It's an invisibility cloak.
Okay, moving on to the structure of the tool itself. The report says CoolClient is modular. It uses plugins.
Which is the mark of a mature software project, right? Instead of one giant bloated file, they built a framework. They can just load plugins dynamically based on what they need to do.
So let's walk through some of them. There's a remote shell.
Which is exactly what it sounds like. It spawns a hidden cmd.exe process, the command prompt, and redirects the input and output right to the attacker. So the hacker types "dear" in Beijing, and the directory listing of a computer in Pakistan appears on their screen.
Hands-on keyboard access.
Effectively, yes. Then there's the file management plugin.
Which lets them treat the victim's computer like an external hard drive.
Yep. Search for files, copy them, delete them, and crucially zip them up. Compressing files is important. It makes the data smaller and faster to steal.
And finally, service management.
Which allows them to start, stop, or delete Windows services. That's key for disabling security tools or creating new ways to stay on the system.
You know, as we list these, remote shell, file management, service management, if you strip away the context, this sounds exactly like a legitimate IT admin tool.
It does. It sounds like TeamViewer or AnyDesk.
That's the whole point, isn't it?
It is. That's the dual-use nature of these tools. The commands used to fix a server are identical to the commands used to destroy it. The only difference is authorization. And CoolClient just grants the attacker full admin privileges.
Which brings us to the heist itself, the info stealers. The report says they have specific variants for different browsers. They're not just using a generic tool.
No, they're optimizing. Kaspersky found 3 distinct variants. Variant A is built specifically for Chrome, Variant B is for Microsoft Edge, and Variant C is a general-purpose tool for any Chromium-based browser.
They want to make sure they can get the goods no matter what.
Exactly. Safe passwords, cookies, session tokens, whatever you're using, they've got a tool for it.
Now, here's the part that I think is the most clever aspect of this whole operation. The exfiltration, how they get the data out. Usually that's where hackers get caught, right? Someone notices gigabytes of data being sent to some suspicious server.
Right. Data exfiltration is the loudest part of the attack. It's hard to hide a truck leaving the building.
But Mustang Panda found a way to make the truck invisible. They're using Google Drive.
They are. This is a technique we call living off the land. The malware comes with hard-coded API tokens. It connects to Google Drive, or sometimes a service called Pixeldrain, and just uploads the stolen data.
Why is it so hard to stop?
Because of the whitelist. Corporate and government firewalls are designed to block bad things, but they explicitly allow Google Drive because people use it for legitimate work.
So the security guard at the gate sees a Google Drive truck and just waves it through.
Precisely. The traffic is encrypted, it's going to a trusted domain like googlelepus.com, and it looks exactly like legitimate business traffic. The firewall has no idea that inside those encrypted packets are stolen state secrets.
That seems incredibly difficult to defend against without just blocking Google entirely, which most places can't do.
It forces defenders to move beyond simple blocking. They have to look for behavioral anomalies. Why is this server uploading 5 gigabytes of data to Google Drive at 3 a.m. on a Sunday? That's a much harder question to answer.
So, zooming out, we have a sophisticated tool, a shift in delivery tactics, clever exfiltration. Is this just business as usual, or is something bigger shifting?
All signs point to a significant ramp-up. We have to look at the timeline. This report is from late January 2026, but just earlier this month, Taiwan's National Security Bureau issued a public warning ranking Mustang Panda as a high-volume threat to critical infrastructure.
So Taiwan is seeing a surge right now.
A massive surge. And remember, just last month, Kaspersky found another tool from this same group, a kernel mode loader for a backdoor called ToneShell.
So in the span of about 60 days, we've seen ToneShell, this CoolClient overhaul, and national-level warnings.
That suggests a group that is working overtime. They are actively retooling. They are reading the defense's playbook and writing a new offense in real time.
It just underscores that point we started with. Malware is a product. It has a development team, a roadmap, a release schedule.
It is. The moment you figure out how to block the Western binary trick, they switch to Sangfor. The moment you block their command and control server, they switch to Google Drive. It's an endless cycle.
Okay, let's try to crystallize this. We've covered a lot of technical ground. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into Mustang Panda's evolution?
I'd boil it down to 4 main points. First, Mustang Panda is accelerating. The update to CoolClient transforms it from a simple backdoor into a potent, all-in-one espionage suite.
Right.
Second, their tradecraft is shifting. They're moving away from abusing Western software and are now leveraging trusted Chinese vendors like Sangfor for delivery. It helps them blend in.
That's supply chain camouflage.
Exactly. Third, the tool itself is now context-aware. It uses window titles and clipboard monitoring to steal data with surgical precision.
Not just a fire hose of data.
And finally, they're mastering the art of hiding in plain sight by using Google Drive APIs for exfiltration, which makes detection incredibly difficult for standard firewalls.
It's a sobering snapshot of where we are in 2026. It really feels like the lines are blurring.
They are. The distinction between a legitimate tool and malware is becoming purely about intent, not functionality.
And that's the thought I want to leave everyone with today. We've spent all this time talking about how these hackers are using Sangfor software, Google Drive APIs, and admin-style plugins. They're using the exact same infrastructure and tools that we use to do our legitimate jobs.
It's the dual-use dilemma.
Right. So in a world where the bad traffic looks exactly like the good traffic, where the malware looks like an admin tool and the exfiltration looks like a cloud backup, how do we keep our doors open for business but closed to spies? Are we reaching a point where we can't distinguish the two without grinding our own productivity to a halt?
That is the billion-dollar question for the next decade.
Something to think about the next time you copy a password to your clipboard. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay safe, and watch those updates.
Goodbye, everyone.